the guys we were discussing is today's news, the hot news on MG Akbar and Ramani. So one apprehension this person was talking to me asked was, will it now lead to a lot of women filing cases? I said, even this woman hasn't filed cases. And for any woman to, so when this happened that he filed a defamation case and she had to defend herself as an accused person, the it's an ironical situation that a victim has been made an accused. So the actual accused gets just nothing accepting his claim of defamation, but the victim does. But no, she has the guts and she had the um, capacity to fight this case and get this order. But her fight is still not over. He's still saying he's going appeal and appealed and first to the High Court, then he'll go to the Supreme Court, and it can continue forever. Therefore, I do not think whether this case gives hope to sexual harassment victims and whether any change is required to be made in the Sexual Harassment Act itself. I said, whatever changes you make will not apply retrospectively in any case. So that is not going to make any difference. And all of us, all women, I think, we would have faced sexual harassment in buses in different scenarios, and most of them just kind of move on. We do not want to get stuck there, and this is something we think this is inevitable, and therefore cases like this do create spaces for people to start talking. That's the only step forward. That it does seem that it is not only that the poor women get harassed and abused. It is the Me Too movement is all about this. That very powerful women have said that no, they were, and they kept quiet. So I think I'd have to take this call. There's an important call just now. Yeah, this was one of the urgent calls which came unexpectedly at this time. I'm happy that I received. So, where were we?
Defamation case.
Hmm?
Defamation case and cannot apply retrospectively.
Yeah, so the criminal law, whatever changes you make will apply prospectively only. And there was this other case also. I did not take that cutting. I should have, where Bobde is reviewing that there is a tendency to file cases against judges when they're about to get positions. So this judge lost his high court position, but the woman never deposed against him after a compromise. So for me, that's kind of making again creating stereotypical images for women, though it may be one case. And in this case, in the incident that he mentioned, the fact still remains that the man who was about to be the judge, who was about to be elevated to become a judge, a high court judge, was not thrown out of his position. And if the colleague judge did not make any statement, did not submit and depose before the committee after a compromise, the legislation provides for a compromise. So if there had been an understanding, and we do in restorative justice that the victims, if they believe that the person is really apologetic and they want to forgive that person, they can do that. So if in that compromise scenario that happened, so it is not that she was making a false complaint, but the fact that she did not depose is now being held against her. You're just saying that she has still saved him a job. So, and nobody is saying that the judge, that means if it was not truth, then why did the judge agree to the compromise? So somewhere this whole burden that if you are saying I was abused, the burden is on you to prove beyond reasonable doubt, and also that if you kept silent, which means that you're telling a lie. Women kept silent for 1,000 reasons, as in case of the LGBT community also. Why are they not revealing themselves? Because the harassment which will follow them is going to be so grave that to deal with their inner self is one problem they are having, then to deal with the other uh, pressures of the society is another one. So, okay, no, we were back onto the report. Do you want to identify or kind of spell out a couple of good uh, developments which have taken place in different countries on inclusiveness of LGBT community? I think I wanted to highlight that part. In many ways, because I really felt that it was a very good report, but neither the students are there, and I don't know what's happening to this class. We have all these instances. When you look at this, part 4 of this report, discriminatory laws, 76 countries retain laws that are used to criminalize people on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. So now we can say it is one less because we have changed after the judgment. Criminalization of private consensual homosexual act violates an individual's right to privacy and to non-discrimination and constitute a breach of international human rights law. Since 2000, criminalization of homosexual acts has been decriminalized in Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Cape Verde, Georgia, Fiji, India, the Marshall Islands. Acha, this is rather referring to since 2000. How come India come into this? Nepal, Nicaragua, Panama, United States, together with dependent territories of New Zealand and the United Kingdom. In some cases, the courts have overturned these laws. In other, the legislature has done that. Death penalty. In at least 5 countries, the death penalty may be applied to those found guilty of offenses relating to consensual adult homosexual conduct. So here we are certainly talking about both the parties and not one of them. Arbitrary arrest and detention, any number of places you can find that. Discriminatory practices are also listed out. Explicit constitutional guarantee of protection from discrimination on ground of sexual orientation applies in 6 countries, while in several others, such guarantees are incorporated into regional or provincial level constitutions. In other countries, including Canada, Colombia, Hong Kong, China, India, and Nepal, general language on non-discrimination has been interpreted by courts as providing equivalent protection. Discrimination in employment. How does that happen? Because sometimes the law itself says it is applicable for men, this is for women. Para 52 says 54 states have laws prohibiting discrimination in employment based on sexual orientation. In the absence of such laws, employers may be able to fire or refuse to hire or promote people simply because they are thought to be homosexual or transgender. Benefits that accrue to heterosexual employees may be denied to their LGBT counterparts, from parental or family leave to participation in pension and healthcare insurance scheme. Well, that reminds me, we should, today's newspaper, Ankit, has a very important development there. That. Do you get newspaper in your home? Maybe you can do if you don't, that you can do.
Which one?
This is Times of India for me, but I'm quite sure it will be on the Google search also. So Procter & Gamble has now delinked parental leave from gender and marriage. So even if you are unmarried and you have So what they've done is they're providing for child care leave to the caring. So adoption leave is for the caring parent. So it is not that only women can take it, which is there in the other laws. So Procter and Gamble has taken a very good step forward, in my understanding, where they are saying the company said this will entitle. So the parental leave policy called Share the Care. The move will enable all new parents working at the FMCG company to avail of the leave irrespective of gender or marital status. The company said this will entitle all new parents, including biological parents, domestic partners, adoptive parents, or parents in same-sex relationship couples, to 8 weeks fully paid leave. This builds on the company's existing maternity leave policy of 26 weeks for birthing mothers and adoption leave of 26 weeks, same period, good, for primary caregivers. PNG VP and Head Human Resources, Indian Subcontinent, MP Srinivas said, "We believe care for home and family has no gender. Our new Share the Care parental leave policy drives positive change by providing equal opportunity to all parents to share care giving for their new family members. Share the Care program is not just a policy change, but a step towards shifting cultural norms in India by making child care giving unbiased. It also helps more parents spend more time with the child and enable effective bonding, especially in early weeks. It also allows both parents to provide support to each other on this journey. I thought this was good. Even it's a private company, a small company, but it is kind of showing the way, because we keep on saying, we have been saying this also, that no, the parents can take leave for 15 days leave, and they are done with the child care for the rest of the life of the child till 18 years. But the mothers are still obligated to, not obligated, they are facilitated to take leave up to 2 years for child care. So I thought that was a good thing. I think I would suggest that at this point of time, keep track of the newspapers and whatever news channel you're looking at, because of 8th March on the anvil, there'll be a lot more coverage of what's happening to women. Suddenly we wake up that 8th March is coming, so we have to be aware and sensitive. But in any case, good occasions always. I think that special occasions are important because they do bring in focus on aspects forgotten. So, okay, I don't know. So it was in the context of when we were reading the report. So I'm back to the report. In this also says that in X versus Colombia and Young versus Australia, the Human Rights Committee found that failure to provide pension benefits to an unmarried same-sex partner, when such benefits were granted to unmarried heterosexual couples, was a violation of rights guaranteed by the covenant. So in our case, we have not even agreed to the heterosexual same-sex partners or the unmarried heterosexual couples. We do not recognize. So we are not making a discrimination in the same manner in which Australia has recognized this. Decriminalization, discrimination in healthcare. One second. The criminalization of homosexuality debtors individuals to seek health care. And that was the also issue in Tempen and getting physical checkups which are done for HIV/AIDS. So that's the context which has also been recognized. In countries where no criminal sanctions exist, homophobic, sexist, and transphobic practices and attitudes on the part of healthcare institutions and personnel may nonetheless deter LGBT persons from seeking services, which in turn has a negative impact on efforts to tackle HIV/AIDS and other health concerns. Concerns of potential patients, including breaches of confidentiality, higher stigma, and violent reprisals. discrimination in education, uh, isolation and stigma, which you were referring earlier also, that the issues that children find even if they get into the school. Isolation and stigma generate depression and other health problems and contribute to truancy, absenteeism, children being forced out of school, and in extreme cases, attempted or actual suicide. A related area of concern is sex education. The special rapporteur on the right to education noted that in order to be comprehensive, sexual education must pay special attention to diversity, since everyone has the right to deal with his or her own sexuality. Restriction of freedom of expression, association, assembly. We already know a bit of it from our own readings as well. Discriminatory practices in family and community. Such discrimination manifests itself in various ways, including through individuals being excluded from family homes, disinherited, prevented from going to school, sent to psychiatric institutions, forced to marry, forced to relinquish children, punished for activist work, and subjected to attacks on personal reputation. In many cases, lesbians, bisexual women, and transgender people are especially at risk owing to entrenched gender inequalities that restrict autonomy in decision making about sexuality, reproduction, and family life. Family or community members often enforce gender norms and punish transgression. Then they have given you the details from different countries. Denial of recognition of relationships and related access to state and other benefits. The Human Rights Committee has held that states are not required under international law to allow same sex couples to marry. Yet the obligation to protect individuals from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation extends to ensuring that unmarried same sex couples are treated in the same way and entitled to same benefits as unmarried opposite sex couples. In some countries, the states provide benefits for unmarried and unmarried heterosexual couples, but denies them to the homosexual couples. Gender recognition and related issues. Okay, emerging responses. This I thought is important for us to look at. Many member states have instituted training programs for law enforcement officials to sensitize them to bias motivated violence against LGBT persons and help them to recognize, register, and respond to reports of such crimes. In some countries, including Spain and Honduras, special prosecutors have been appointed to investigate and bring cases to trial. In South Africa, a national task team on homophobic and transphobic hate crime has been established following consultations with the LGBT community. Some states, including Brazil, Ecuador, Germany, Netherlands, Uruguay, have used the Yogyakarta principles to help guide policy response to incidents of violence and discrimination. There are many examples of public information campaigns, sometimes developed with state support, designed to address the social prejudice. In Brazil, the government has supported a public education program implemented under the slogan Brazil without homophobia. Examples of initiative to counter homophobia and transphobia in educational institutions include teacher training programs, establishment of safe spaces for LGBT youths in schools, and awareness raising campaigns. In Australia, the publicly funded Safe Schools Coalition offers teachers training and learning materials. In China, the Boys and Girls Club Association of Hong Kong offers counseling in schools and youth centers. In Ireland, an anti-homophobia video shown in school has been watched by 500,000 people online. And they have given us a lot more there, and I want all of you to look at that. In the conclusion, they're saying the present report summarizes only some of the information gathered by United Nations treaty bodies and special procedures, regional and non-government organizations on violence and discrimination based on actual or perceived sexual orientation and gender identity. A more comprehensive study is needed. So apparently, we do know that even though some documentation has occurred, we have still very little information on this group. And the general tools are. So there's always this other debate that should, sometimes we say and this was the argument in NAS as well, one of the when we take religious bodies and the group for opposing decriminalization, they said that India is still not ready. We've heard it more often also in case of death penalty removal. India is not ready. And therefore, once people become ready, then we will make the law. So what are the areas, whether we know that in all cases, sometimes the law leads to society and sometimes society leads to law. Sometimes law lays down. India was not ready to not give and take. It is still not ready to not give, take, and demand dowry. It's still continuing. But law has led the norm saying, no, 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 this is all illegal. So the law is forward. The society is very backward on that. But many a times the law has come because people in the community demanded. So when sati was demanded, there was certainly a group, just one elite, who would led the whole struggle. But the demand had come, and as a response of the demand, the law came. So in this case, again, that the whole scenario is there. In case of many scenarios, we say that no, when it comes to UCC, we've been saying no, let the community demand. We will not impose uniform civil code, but let the communities demand. So these are again things to ponder about. That what are the areas where legislature has stepped in and said no, law will lead the society, and what are the areas in which the politicians stay back? No, no, let the society demand the law, then we will come in. And how would you think about this law, the Transgender Act? Is it a case of law leading society or society leading the law?
Ma'am, it was certainly demanded by the community, but not a kind of law that they got.
Yeah, so the demand has come. No, in fact, it's partly there, but the initiative actually came in a sense from the Supreme Court. When NALSA went there and they gave a positive judgment, that also provided a support to the demand which was rising from the society. So first legislature, first the judiciary responded to the demand from society, and then the legislator is following up. Of course, not in the same spirit as it is expected, but we know that legislating is not necessarily an exercise in justice. Therefore, it's understandable. But as long as that sufficient demand has been created for the government to respond, is a starting point. So one can look at it from that perspective as well. That at least there has been a legislative recognition that there is a sizable number of people who are asking for law. Otherwise, you can keep asking for law and nothing happens. So, okay, we'll stop with that for today. And what are we supposed to talk about on Monday? Oh, we'll look at two of these international documents more in detail. So, CEDAW and Yogyakarta. And my promise and threat is that it is your presentation. And this is not at all addressed to Ankit. He has been doing very well, reading all the materials. This for the rest of the class. That if you people do not come prepared with a small presentation on these two on the days listed, we will assume these two have been done. So we will want to discuss what is the range of rights. Why was the need for have a CEDAW? Why was there a need to have Yogyakarta? That to some extent we have discussed, because general instruments do not focus the special issues. So what are the range of areas of concern of women which have been addressed? Can we relate any legislations which have happened because of the direction of the CEDAW, or which are kind of core, can be related to the CEDAW provisions? And also we will look at Yogyakarta principles plus 10 included. So that's for Monday and Tuesday. And then we will move from theory and abstract to the Indian laws. We'll start looking at the criminal law as a starting point. So everybody have please mark your attendance if you haven't done so already, and we meet on Monday. Monday you will have your class from Rishikesh, and I hope that my network will work there. I've taken a station leave, but I'll be holding
Happy
class.
journey, ma'am.